Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to begin by saying Barakatah, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Salutations to the sincere Akim pushing the truth with no due diligence and sincerity. A quick financial update for you, man. Further turmoil and splits within this kingdom, man, and evidence that we are at the end of Esau Edom's kingdom. Um, if you know anything about world history, you'll know that France has always been a bit of a rebellious nation when it comes to the EU slash NATO pact. They're often quite rebellious, they do their own thing, and even the French people are known to be quite out there and rebellious. That's why they're rioting in France right now over the government's changing up of the pension age, man. Because those French, man, they're very rebellious, man. The French have a history of being rebellious. Now, in the latest news around natural gas, specifically LNG, yeah, China and France, yeah, you heard it right. China and France, yeah, have just completed the world's first international trade of significant international trade of LNG gas in the Chinese yuan in the spirit of moving away from the dollar. You're looking at de-dollarization of the world happening at an immensely fast pace. Now, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter? No, because Moab is not going to be the next kingdom up. But it just goes to show that the power of Esau Edom is slowly slipping away, man. The dollar is not what it once was, and with the de-dollarization of the world, with the dollar looking to have its position as the world reserve currency threatened, you're looking at well, not just high, potentially hyperinflation. If that occurs, you're looking at um, World War Three being being sped up exponentially. You're looking at famine in the land of America. You're looking at disruption to world markets. Everything's gonna go upside down, and they're looking at a transfer of wealth and transfer of power from the west back to the east in China, man. But ultimately, Israel's got next. We are the next rulers of the next kingdom, man. But I got to bring up this update, man. So it says here, natural gas world, right? Uh, here we go. Let me just quickly read through this. Got to jump on the plantation at work soon. China has completed its first purchase of LNG using cross-border yuan settlement, state-owned. Sorry, let's read that again. China has completed its first purchase of LNG using cross-border yuan settlement. Yeah, so they've made a payment for LNG from France using the yuan. State-owned China Daily reported on March 29th. State-run energy company Sinopec bought a shipment of LNG from France's Total Energies through Shanghai Petroleum and Natural Gas Exchange. The newspaper reported, citing an announcement by the Natural Gas Exchange on its official WeChat account. The deal was completed in cross-border yuan settlement, and the transaction volume was around 65,000 metric tons. The LNG is sourced from the UAE. The transaction is a meaningful attempt to promote multi-currency pricing, settlements, and cross-border payment in international LNG trading. China Daily quoted Guo Zhu, chairman of the group, saying, Yu Ping, deputy general manager of Sinopec, said that the yuan settlement can promote energy trade globalization and a diversified ecosystem for LNG trading. Let's read that again. Eugene, deputy general manager of Sinopec, however you say that shit, CNOOC, said that the yuan settlement can promote energy trade globalization and build a diversified ecosystem for LNG trading. Whew, a diversified ecosystem for LNG trading. What they're basically saying is a world where not everyone has to has to depend on the dollar, man. Now, you would have thought that France would be allied with the US and would never do something like that. Well, guess what, man? Hey, man, listen, listen. Revelation 17, and I'm gonna start. Uh, let me start from verse 12. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. So Yahushua is always going to triumph. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the horse sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. Yeah, so the beast was sitting on top of various multitudes, various peoples, different nations, right? And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, yeah, the 10 different kingdoms, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So the 10 horns, which represent the 10 different nations, man, the original EU setup. You now got it diversified to over 28 countries, but it goes back to that original set. It says, the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For Yahweh hath put it in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of Yahweh shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest, the whore, is that great city, Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, America today, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. What that passage is saying is that the Lord's going to put it in the spirit of these nations, man. Nations like your France's, Spain's, some of these other European countries to basically turn against America, man. And in that time of nuclear destruction, actually fire back upon the whore, man. You're going to have a lot of um, you're going to have many international disagreements. You're going to have turmoil amongst nations that were once cool. All sorts of different problems occurring. And it's the Lord that is going to set the wheels in motion for that. Because you see, America is going to put a lot of these European nations in positions that they don't want to be in, man. And so some of these nations are going to take the stance of fuck America. We're going to deal with America's enemies because it's better for us to trade with China, for example, and the yuan, because their economy is coming up and they've got the BRICS partnership with Brazil, Russia, India themselves, and China and South Africa. They've potentially got the Saudis looking to join them, and there's one other country that I forget at the moment. But a lot of these nations are going to basically look at America as the losing side and switch sides, man. Because not every single one of those toes, man, in the last empire that we're living in, the 10 toes are strong. So they're going to look for allyship that they can depend on. This is Daniel's the second chapter. And let me start from 41. And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided. But there shall be in it the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with miry clay, and as the toes of the feet were part of iron and part of clay, so the kingdom shall be partly strong and partly broken. So you're gonna have strong parts of that kingdom. Even though the UK broke off from the EU, they're still a part of NATO, but they're still a European country. You're gonna have countries like England. You're gonna have your France's, even though they got their issues. Then you're gonna have countries like your Greece's, your Portugals, which are technically are part of Spain, but weaker countries, man, that are more dependent and likely to switch their allyship if they get a better deal. Yeah. And 10 toes, and as the 10 toes were part of iron and part of clay, so shall the kingdom be partly strong and partly weak, partly broken. And whereas thou saw iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but shall not cleave to one another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. Essentially, these kingdoms are not going to get along, man. They've got multiple treaties, they've got multiple international trade agreements. But as you can see, France, for example, just basically snaked the block and started trading with China and Yuan. And a lot of other countries are going to look at that and think, when the UK, for example, completed Brexit, there was talk about the French, like I said, the French again being rebellious. There was talk about a Frexit because the French started looking at things and saying, do we really need this trade block? Why don't we just jump ship also? This is the kind of fracture. These are the kind of fractures, sorry, that are being caused within the international bloc, and it's all through the spirit, man. Because the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai, is causing that spirit of division amongst these different nations of Esau, man. And actually, how Shai said, man, when he was called Beelzebub by the scribes and Pharisees, man, he said, hey, listen, if Satan be divided against Satan, then how can his kingdom stand? You know? Obviously, he was rectifying their bullshit statements back then, but that also stands for the fact that Esau, Edom, his kingdom is falling apart, man. And at the end of the day, there's nothing that he can do to bring it back together. As per Isaiah the 14th chapter, when he finally falls, people are going to look upon this devil and think, is this the man that did shake kingdoms, that made the earth to tremble? This man. When these Edomites are brought down, when the Brits are no longer in power, when the gold they've stolen is restored, when the French are taken down, the Germans, etc. People are going to look upon these heathens and think, these Edomites in particular, and think, wow, these devils. Well, hey, man. You can see the weak are saying they're strong, man. China was once nowhere near America in terms of sheer strength and power, but over a good couple of hundreds of years, they've accelerated their industries, man. And it's through the Lord Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai ultimately, because you need superpowers to take on superpowers, right? You got Russia and China on one end, and you got America and her allies on the other, and hey man, the stage for World War III is set. The second war is past, and the third war cometh quickly, as the scripture saith, man. All these little proxies and moves, man, are making way for the coming judgment. But yeah, I just wanted to make this a quick one. Got to start work in a minute. Until the next time I say shalom. Yeah, watch this space, man. It's gonna be an interesting year. Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai Barakatam.